My name is John Cunningham with C2 Freight Resources. We are a Hub Zone certified logistics company here in Houston, Alabama. We've been in business for over 20 years, working with the Department of Defense and the federal government, among many other customers. C2 is committed to truckload shipments along with less than truckload shipments across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Our high level of service is what keeps our customers coming back year after year. Our industry-leading transportation management software, along with our tracking software, allow our customers to know where their shipments are at any time, any day. In closing, C2 Freight looks forward to earning your trust and business through actions day in and day out. We know if given the opportunity, you'll be pleased with our service and communication.
Richmar Florist makes every day a special day, from weddings and large events to that little something for any occasion. Richmar Florist has the perfect floral expression, and they're open online 24/7 at richmarflorist.com. Everywhere, every day. Richmar's 2 retail locations offer a fantastic selection of floral creations, gifts, and home decor. Book your free consultation in our showroom for your special event needs, and visit us online at richmarflorist.com today.
Good evening, race fans. Spring break is over, and we are off on the road to Indianapolis. We're at Lexington, Ohio, the virtual version of the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course tonight. Good evening, race fans. I'm Mark Gillespie, along with Rishabh Khosla. We're bringing you the Tilson Mid-Ohio 200 tonight on the Mega Driver 86 IndyCar Series. Rish, tell us what we're going to be facing tonight here at Mid-Ohio.
Well, we've got 90 laps ahead of us here at this extremely physical, even in a sim, extremely physical, natural terrain road course. Lots of hills, a very tricky car, I'm sure, to handle here, as you'll find that rear end getting light as you go over all these bumps and crests. We've also got different strategy in play, as we've got both red alternate tires and the black primary Firestone tires available to these drivers now. So strategy. A lot of work behind the wheel. It's going to be a very intensive night for a lot of these drivers.
We have a very close race in the championship series now. We really haven't talked much about the championship standings because had to get through the first few races, but Henry Bennett is leading with 1 win, 2 poles over Adriano Pinheiro by just 3 points. Adriano has 2 wins and 1 pole. Andrew Marquez is third in the standings, along with Caleb Bency, and then Alexander Vanderzand rounds out your top 5. Nick DeGroot, Victor Del Porto, Justin Portner, and Chad Frankenfield, along with Yari Brubaker, round out the top 10 in the standings so far. We have about 1 minute and 15 seconds left in qualifying right now. And our designated ringer for tonight, Anders Krohn, is on the provisional pole so far, with Henry Bennett on the outside of that front row. Anders, a longtime race driver in the real world, driver agent, entrepreneur, broadcaster, a little of everything in the IndyCar Series and the Road to Indy Series. And he is on our provisional pole tonight with about 45 seconds left in qualifying.
Yeah, we're just kind of going through the field here. A couple of surprises, a couple of guys moved around a little bit differently. Obviously, we haven't run, or seen too many drivers and what they can do on road courses yet this season. This is the first natural terrain road course we're visiting. Last time we were on any kind of corner that had both left and right turns was Long Beach. And for those of you longtime viewers might know that we had about, 4 cars finishing that race. So certainly not a lot of mileage completed. Yeah, exactly. So not a lot of mileage completed by a lot of these drivers on these types of racetracks. So again, something we're going to keep an eye out here and kind of figure out how this order shakes itself up. This qualifying order could be very, very different to the final race order just because you don't know the longevity of any of these drivers and the cars that they'll have underneath them.
Well, this should be interesting. Anders Krohn is your pole sitter tonight. Henry Bennett, Adriano Pinheiro round out the top 2 and top 3. We will have the Mega Player 86 pace car driven by Ethan Reisner driving tonight. So it's Krohn, Bennett, Pinheiro, Troiano, Bency, and Fortner, your first 3 rows as we get ready for 90 laps at Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, again, just number one thing is also going to be surviving the first couple of corners here. The runoff It doesn't exist at Mid-Ohio. It's just grass, and we saw there in qualifying a couple of guys in the background were sliding off the racetrack. Once you get onto that grass, you've got no grip underneath you. So you really just need to keep all 4 tires where you can on the racetrack itself, and that's obviously going to be the most tricky when you've got all these cars together on the racetrack side by side heading towards Turn 1.
We want to thank our friends at Tilson for sponsoring the race tonight. Tilson knows firsthand how optimized human resources can transform a business and help lay the foundation for sustained success. Tilson has developed the systems, tools, programs, and methodologies in a lean process environment supported by experienced professionals who are committed to helping their clients control costs, increase productivity, and outperform the competition. You can always find out more about Tilson at tilsonhr.com as we get ready to line them up here at Mid-Ohio.
Absolutely. So you guys see them actually lined up just on the back straightaway, really, by the looks of it. So the drivers will have a little bit of time here to, or not too much time to really get underway. However, we will be using the standard IndyCar starting line, so that's after the keyhole, those of you who are familiar with Mid-Ohio. So the start line and the finish line are actually not at the same location here, so a little bit strange of a starting procedure, but one that is pretty familiar to those who follow IndyCar in real life.
And what they do with this is gives them that nice long run up to the starting line out of the keyhole, and then heading down into what is normally would be turn number 4 on the road course here at Mid-Ohio. That way they have a chance to actually get ahead of themselves and get spread out a little bit before they hit that first hard right-hander. The finish line is actually across from pit lane on a fairly short straightaway, so this gives them some room to play here at Mid-Ohio.
Yep. You saw the pace car there roll for a second, but that's
comes
because
Ethan.
Fun little thing to see there behind the scenes as Ethan slides over on the grass. A little bit of rally driving there in that Corvette GT1 car, but Anders Krohn gonna then start the field moving here, get these guys underway and pace them all the way up to that back straightaway.
Let's point out that Anders Krohn and Brian Blauman are driving fairly identical cars tonight, and there may be times when we confuse the two since we can't always see the numbers here with that yellow and black livery, so we will try to not confuse them. We are officially on lap 1 of 50, but keep in mind that we'll have one full pace lap behind the Elite Racing League pace car before we go to real green.
Yeah, I'd expect. I'm actually curious to see what happens here. My expectation is that this pace car is going to peel off to one of these kind of side roads here once they get onto the back straightaway, and that's when they'll head to green flag racing. I don't know if we're going to do a full pace lap here. I'd hope not. We want to get these guys racing and under green flag conditions as soon as possible for sure. And you do see them backing off a little bit from that pace car, so I'd expect we're going to be heading to green here any second now.
As we head down through the keyhole, and the pace car has pulled off. Let's watch as they come around that slight bend. And we are underway. Anders Krohn pulls out into the lead, heading down to what we think of as turn 4 here on the Mid-Ohio course. Henry Bennett, Adriano Pinheiro, Eric Troiano with the first 4. Bancy, Van de Sant, Fortner, and Smith. Your second 4, Blauman, Fody, and Frankenfield round out the top 11.
Yeah, it looks like everybody got through turn 4, turn 1 in the race itself pretty cleanly. As we already have a car
we've got somebody off.
That's our last race winner, Adriano Pinheiro, actually.
We are staying on green as Pinheiro comes. Oh, he's got some damage.
Yeah, pretty significant damage there to that 19 car of Adriano Pinheiro. So off of the highs of a dominant win at Milwaukee, is he going to have to park the car early here? And he is almost stationary on the racetrack there, waiting to see.
It looks like he was trying to let the field clear out ahead of him and try to get around and limp around to the back to the pits.
Yeah, fortunately for him, it happened relatively close to pit lane. He is now back on pit road, so a rough start there for the guy who's second place in the championship and fighting to chase down Henry Bennett up in first.
Meanwhile, Anders Krohn is your leader. Henry Bennett is about a 3/4 of a second behind. Eric Troiano and Bancy round out your top 4.
Yeah, you can already see this field pretty spread out here. Those are intervals that you're seeing, so time between each car on the racetrack, and really nobody close to one another right now inside this top 10. Probably the closest we've got here is maybe this battle for ninth position with Chad Frankenfield and Ryan Schold, and Victor Del Porto as well. It's kind of three-way fight right now. Right now, guys kind of settled out into their own little grooves in their own pockets of the racetrack. We'll see also how overtaking and all of that fares here, how that works with this package, and how that's going to play out over the course of 90 laps.
We'll also have push to pass and, of course, the two tire compounds to deal with as we get further into the race. We'll keep you posted on that. We also should point out that we will have our paint job of the race later on tonight. If you have some suggestions, send them along to us, and we'll consider them as we decide on our paint of the race from KNP Graphics.
For sure. Anders Krohn still stretching out that lead up front. 1.1 seconds now over Henry Bennett, who in turn another 1.1 over Eric Triano in third position, who in turn is also 1.1 in front of Caleb Bensi in fourth. So again, really spread out up front. We've got a nice tight little battle though back here right now, and it's Victor Del Porto versus Ryan Schold, with Del Porto putting the pressure on the back of this 05 car all the way through the S's, and he's hanging really close despite these kind of medium speed corners where it's normally difficult to overtake and even stay close to the car in front with how much aero wash you'd expect. So impressive right now, speed from Victor Del Porto. I want to see where he decides to line up an attack on this 05 car.
It has been a clean race so far with the exception of the Adriano Pinheiro, and he is now being shown as out of the race. That will hurt him in the points standings because he was second in the points, I believe, going into tonight's race.
Yeah, that's a big hurt to Adriano Pinheiro. He does have a drop round counted towards his results, but actually that previously was an 18th place finish at Michigan. This obviously looks to be significantly worse than that. So again, not the start that he was hoping for. Michigan and Long Beach both were races that did not go his way. Man, if Adriano Pinheiro is in victory lane if he's not involved in an incident. That's what I'm seeing looking at the first four races of this season.
It's hard to, I need to get a translation in Google Translate for wreckers or checkers in Portuguese, but we should try to figure that out because that has been Pinheiro's motive so far this season. It's either victory lane or way back in the pack.
Yeah,
Anders Krohn up to a 2-second lead now.
Yeah, he just keeps setting fast lap after fast lap here. That's impressive pace by this 47 car. Anders Krohn. Oh, as we have a spinner in the back. I think is that Ryan Gavel? It is. Gavel around in the carousel.
And we should point out Ryan Gavel had a nasty incident during the practice leading into qualifying tonight earlier before we took the air tonight. And, well, he caught some air, as I recall.
Yeah, it's again, when you've got a virtual car and there's no injuries or there's you can just reset it with a click of a button. It's nice and easy to hit make some of those hits every now and then. So as we have a big lockup through the keyhole, think everybody made it through there all right though.
Yeah. Any word on pit windows tonight?
Not quite. I do know a number. I could actually. Or I know a number for fuel mile, or not fuel mileage, but just the number of gallons per lap, and that's about 3/4 of a gallon per lap. Unfortunately, I don't actually know the size of these the fuel tanks on these Indy cars.
I think it's 18 gallons, but I could be wrong about that. Oh, let's see. Is that that wasn't Krohn?
That was Ryan Gavel.
That was Ryan Gavel again with a second off, and it looks like he's got taken some damage. One of the wings, his left side front wing is off.
Yeah, that's the same place where Adriano Pinheiro went off, just about. That corner, one of the trickier ones on the racetrack, just before the S's, or I guess just after the S's there, excuse me. Yeah.
Fortunately, it's close to pit in, so he can get in and see about getting that fixed.
Yeah, it looks right now like it's just front wing damage on that car from where we're looking, but it could be more severe if there's anything wrong with the tow link on that vehicle.
Good point. Krohn up to almost a 3-second lead, 2.8 seconds over Henry Bennett. Bennett can coast, though, because now that Pinheiro is out of the race, Bennett can just coast and stay in second here. He does not have to push hard because he will have a good scoring night in the points for the championship if he doesn't make any mistakes.
Yeah, it'll be pretty nice for Henry Bennett. Again, just kind of relax right now behind Anders Krohn. A second place is certainly not a bad result, especially when it's to a driver like that 47. And like you said, it's all about that differential to Adriano Pinheiro, who is now fully out of this race. He did go out for 1 or 2 more laps there to try and see if that car was salvageable. They decided it wasn't, and Adriano Pinheiro is now no longer running. So that car is back in the garage, and he's fully out of this event now.
Offhand, what tires Pinheiro was running and what Ryan Gavel were running? Were they running on the reds or the blacks?
Tough to say there. Ryan Gavel, they're on pit road right now, shows him on those black sidewall tires, but obviously that could have changed over relatively shortly after he visited pit road. So tough to say there. Yeah, unfortunately not quite sure.
Because the black tires, of course, the harder compound, and those might have helped with the contribute to the slippage off the track in that one spot.
It absolutely could have, yeah. I don't know exactly what, the time difference and what these drivers balance-wise are expecting in terms of the differences between the two tires, but certainly you'd expect to see those black sidewall tires be generally, like you said, harder compound, more slippery to drive on and possibly cause more mistakes. There are, though, obviously cases where we've seen sometimes drivers can be more comfortable on those black sidewall tires, so it can vary from track to track, from driver to driver. Though if they were on those particular tires, it certainly makes sense.
We are showing some love to the back of the field right now. Robert Garcia in the 18 car, along with Joe McAdory in the 16. We're back in the back there. Now we're back up to the front of the field.
We got a battle here between Brian Blauman and Chad Frankenfield. Frankenfield tried to make the move there on the 29 car, but no luck, as he's now going to fall back behind Victor Del Porto, who's made his way past Ryan Schull in the past lap or so. So this battle right here in the midfield looking really, really tasty, all the way from 8th back to 11th.
Let's watch as Blauman leads the pack down into the keyhole. I'm sorry, that's the carousel, not the keyhole.
Yeah, so right now looks like the best overtaking opportunities are probably, I wouldn't even say heading up into the keyhole here. We'll see what Chad Frankenfield does as he does head to the inside of this 29 car, but because it's uphill, it's actually really hard. The braking zone is so short for that particular corner, so it's hard to make any kind of advantage. Downhill into turn 4 here is where you'd expect as Chad Frankenfield off the track and spreading cones all over the racing line there. He's going to lose a position, though.
We have cones all over the place right now.
That's using every inch and more of the track space to try and make a move. But Chad, it's lap 9 of 90. Aggressive moves right there. Love to see that here. It's entertaining for us up in the booth, but certainly could have potentially ended the day as, I don't know about iRacing, but I know in real life, after we saw Alexander Rossi's win, there's a big drop-off between the racetrack and the grass in that area of the racetrack.
Remember, no real cones were harmed in that lap.
Now here you go.
As
Victor Del
Frankenfield
Porto
makes that move on the inside, coming through the pits. Let's see if he can he makes the moves. Oh, very tight move coming up the hill there.
Yeah, Blauman doing a great job at hanging on the outside of Del Porto, but I think he's going to lose 2 positions now when he does. So it could be Blauman struggling a little bit there on tires. I'm curious, actually. So it looks like Del Porto on the red sidewalls there. Same with Chad. Could Blauman be running the black sidewalls here?
Yep.
I think he is. So that could also explain that pace differential there that you're seeing. Strategy is going to be a big thing that these guys are going to be looking at here. 90-lap race. By my calculations, about 24, 25 laps on fuel. So it's going to be something that, these guys are going to be playing around with a little bit, maybe seeing if they can do fuel save. If it's possible to reduce pit stops or anything like that, or just save their tires to make it to those fuel windows.
The thing we have to tell you is that iRacing's timing and scoring does not give us the information on who's running which tire, whether it's the black primary or the red softer compound. So the only way we can tell is to actually look at the cars, and That's what we're trying to do, but the camera resolution isn't always the greatest from a distance here. So with our aging eyes, we're doing the best we can.
Yeah, absolutely. We can zoom in a little bit there on these cars. So this is Caleb Benson you've got here on the screen. You can tell those are the red sidewall tires on that car, and he is putting them to good work here as he's been closing slowly on Eric Troiano, who in turn, again, closing in on Henry Bennett, also on the Troiano on the red sidewall tires. Bennett, though, also on the red sidewall tires, so could he have just burned through those a little bit too fast here early on in this race here. But we've got a great battle here starting to brew for second position.
This is the first of 5 straight weeks of IndyCar action here on the Elite Racing League and the Elite Racing Channel. Brought to you in the Mega Driver 86 IndyCar Series. We will be next week at Phoenix Raceway for the Bird Racing 250, followed on the 23rd by the Indianapolis Grand Prix at the IMS Road Course. Then the running of the Richmar Florists Indy 500 on May 7th. And we'll take a couple of weeks off after that for the Bird Texas 500 at Texas Motor Speedway, and finishing up with the St. Louis 500 at Worldwide Technology Raceway, the virtual version just outside of St. Louis here in the Elite Racing League Mega Driver 86 IndyCar Series. We're on lap 12 of Pit 90 here at Virtual Mid-Ohio tonight. Anders Krohn with a 3.2-second lead over Henry Bennett. Eric Troiano in third, Caleb Benson in fourth, Alexander Vandersand in fifth place.
Back to this battle here, just outside the top 10, or for the last position in the top 10, you've got Ryan Schull there. Gets maybe a little bit deep there through turn 4. As you can see there, that 29 car, Brian Blauman, struggling massively on those black sidewall tires here. Just trying to get some grip, maybe get some heat in them right now, because they're really not seeming to last. And that's not really what you'd expect, at least from my perception of these tires, is you'd expect them to get better as the run goes on, but we're on lap 13 here. Right now it looks like those red sidewall tires are improving as the run goes on, while those blacks do not seem to be very comfortable. And here you go there, Ryan Schull to the inside. They do a great job at not coming together between these drivers. Brian Blauman certainly defending hard against the 05, but it's going to be tough to defend here as Ryan Schull goes around the outside through turn 1 and into the 10th position.
And Schultz makes a nice move to make that pass stick. That could have easily gone very badly for both drivers as they head down through the carousel.
Anders Krohn, our leader on pit road. So there you go. That's a very early pit stop here for him. And he's stationary for 30 seconds. Was there an incident for Anders Krohn, our leader? Let's head back to the iRace Online replay and see
yeah,
if we can
because
find
I didn't see anything here.
I didn't see anything on the track map. I just saw that car hop to pit road, but he's been stationary for about 30 seconds or so while we were watching that battle further behind. Let's take a look and see what happened to this 19 or this 47 car, excuse me.
And he's been in the pits for a full minute now.
He has been, and you know what? I don't even think it was hitting a car, and we'll show you what we have here on the cameras. I think it might have been an engine failure for this 47 car.
Ooh. Oh, kablamo.
Yeah, something
the
failed
great David
there.
Hobbs would say.
Wow, that's shocking. 14 laps into this race, and Anders Krohn with an engine failure. I mean, could certainly explain his immense pace, but I'm amazed that the car would blow up that quickly.
Yeah, the damage model on iRacing shouldn't be that severe, but Henry Bennett has now moved into the lead. Eric Troiano is in second. Caleb Benson is in third. Alexander Vandersand fourth. Hunter Smith in fifth place right now. As we looked briefly at Anders Krohn in the pits for almost 2 minutes now.
Yeah, wow. So Henry Bennett, this Eric Troiano, Caleb Benson, this battle for second position before is now your battle for the lead, for the race win effectively, at least early in this race. So crazy how quickly those tides can turn. I'm still kind of in shock. You don't generally see reliability issues in iRacing. That's not typically something that happens. Engine failures are not something common, unless it was something where Anders Krohn was potentially over-revved the engine, something like that, where it might have,
missed a shift coming out of a turn or something like that.
Yeah, missed a shift, revved it too high, or downshifted one too many gears, and that's enough to over-rev the engine, something like that, where the engine can't hold up, or I don't know what would cause that, because Unless, yeah, that's very interesting. And if you look at like a stock car, you'll typically see engine failures because those engines are front mounted, and you can certainly knock in the intercooler and knock in the radiators on those. That causes the overheating there, but I mean, that's out of the blue for an IndyCar for sure.
Yeah, and there's no contact on there, so nothing that would have actually caused a mechanical other than something internal inside the engine.
Yeah, very, very shocking there. But yeah, it's certainly opened this race up. As again, Henry Bennett with a bit of a lead here, but Eric Troiano, Caleb Bensi both chasing him down. Alexander Van der Sant as well joining in this battle pretty close behind. So look out for all of these guys.
They've now put Krohn one lap down.
Yeah, there you go. So Anders Krohn completely out of this event. He's still stationary on pit road, has been for the past 3 or so minutes. A couple of cars visiting pit road. Tyler Fode, I think, might have had some damage. He was stationary for about 23 seconds. Really hasn't been the season he's been looking for in the IndyCar Series this year. But, it's
it also
rookie.
looks like Ryan Gavel has dropped out of the race as well. He's being shown significantly far back, 2 laps back behind, and Joe McAdory is being shown as 4 laps behind.
Yeah, Joe McAdory and Robert Garcia, we'd expect to see those guys pop past the likes of Anders Krohn here, since Krohn looks like he's fully out of this race. So I'd say Anders Krohn, Ryan Gavel, Adriano Pinheiro, the 3 cars right now that are out of this event. A couple of other cars have run into issues, though, and are further back the order.
Bennett's lead is now 0.6 of a second ahead of Eric Troiano.
Yeah, and these guys are starting to catch up with some lap traffic here. You see there as Jari Brubaker right in front of Henry Bennett right now. So just trying to manage that there, and that's pretty quick again to kind of get to this lap traffic here, just 17 laps. But some impressive pace from these guys up front. And for Henry Bennett right now, he's hoping to put the car between himself and the other guys through the twisty bits, and that's going to be a huge benefit for him. That could stretch that lead out to about a second and a half here.
Makes that move nicely.
Yeah, and there you see Eric Troiano still bottled up behind Jari Brubaker, and that's huge advantage here for Henry Bennett, as we're probably getting pretty close to pit cycle here within a couple of laps.
We almost had Bensi get into someone there, trying to get around it. Now Brubaker is pulled over and allowing the leaders to get through.
Look out for Bensi and Van der Sant. I mean, last time we were at a road course or even a street course, it was those 2 race first cars that were dominant at Long Beach. So look out for them, especially on the long runs. And as this race goes on, they're looking competitive right now and still tracing down Eric Troiano. This race, again, still very much open for all of these guys. And once strategy comes to be a part of it, again, expect a bit of a shakeup in this field.
Bennett's lead is now 1.4 seconds over Troiano on lap 18.
Troiano now defending from Caleb Bensi and Alexander Van der Sant. A little bit further back here, you got Justin Fortner chasing down Hunter Smith. This is a close little battle we've got here on the racetrack. I believe teammates? Those
looks like it.
Look the same there. So yep, there you go. So teammates kind of working on each other right now. You've got Justin Fortner on those red sidewall tires. I would assume the same for Hunter Smith, as they're side by side with Jari Brubaker again, and that kind of sketchy part of the racetrack here is going to open up that gap once again. So, just these guys catching Jari at the wrong place at the wrong time. Nothing on Jari, I think. A little bit slower than the rest of these guys, but he doesn't seem to be hogging up the racing line that much. As he does get out of the way there on the front straightaway when he can. Those twisty bits, it's just hard to get out of the way.
Yeah, because you can try to get out of the way, but you're going to wind up in the grass if you go too far out of the way.
Absolutely, and even when it's back and forth like that, you get out of the way for one corner, you're in the way for the next. Pretty spread out field, though, as a whole right now.
Del Porto is still about 8 seconds behind his teammate.
Yeah, Victor Del Porto right now leading over Chad Frankenfield. This battle getting a little bit closer by. I think Frankenfield might be on the button there, trying to close in a little bit down this back straightaway. So drivers who haven't used their push to pass yet, Eric Troiano, Caleb Bensi, and Alexander Van der Sant up inside that top 5. as well as most of the guys outside of the top 10 haven't really touched that button. So Andrew Marquez on the back. Brendan Madonia, the only driver outside the top 10 who has used that push-to-pass just once. So, again, early days in this race, but that's a weapon that's available to these drivers that they can use throughout this race when they get close to other guys, especially down that back straightaway from the keyhole onwards. That's where you're gonna expect to see drivers using that.
Yeah, definitely. As we watch Chad Frankenfield come around to complete lap number 20.
Yeah, Frankenfield still chasing down Victor Del Porto here. Gap about, yes, 3/4 of a second here. It's pretty stationary there. I don't think he's closing down that much on that last lap. Pretty much identical lap times between the two, separated by about 100th. So no major advantage either way between Victor Del Porto and Chad Frankenfield. I will say up front, Henry Bennett doing a fantastic job on that last lap, 0.2 faster than anyone in this second kind of group here of Eric Troiano, Caleb Bensi, and Alexander Van de Sande. I'd suspect Bennett probably starting to try and push a little bit as we're getting close to that pit cycle, give him a bit of a gap to work with so that he can come down pit road without being as nervous with these guys behind. But you can see Troiano pushing as well. I think he's put in a great lap here. We'll see as they come around in timing and scoring updates. Troiano, I think, is going to throw in half a second better on that last lap. Yeah, big lap there by the 14.
Oh, yeah.
The pressure is on the number 1.
As it should be with our defending champion, Henry Bennett, and leader in the points standings right now for this season.
Yeah, Henry Bennett's been impressive. Obviously only just one race win this season, but he's been thereabouts within the races that we've had.
He's been in contention pretty much every week almost.
Yeah, exactly. And results-wise, one finish outside of the top 5, that's how you win a championship right there. Just that one win, but 2 4th-place finishes and then a 7th place at Milwaukee was his worst result this season. So,
and if 7th place is what you're dropping as your worst result of the season, you've had a good season so far.
Exactly. So really good from Henry Bennett right there. I think the biggest reason why Adriano Pinheiro was so close is because there were so few races. Is that the 2 of the 3 races counted for Pinheiro were race wins here. But Pinheiro is going to have to get more of that consistency that we're seeing from Bennett if he wants to be a real contender here for this championship.
It is Pinheiro's first season in the Elite Racing League, though, so we'll give him some benefit of the doubt here as when he comes up for next season and chalking this one up to gaining some experience.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, his speed has been absolutely impressive from the drop of the green flag. Of course, winning the very first race of the season, his very first race in the Elite Racing League. So super impressive by Adriano Pinheiro. It just needs to get those results when the race-winning car quite isn't there. So been unfortunate, I think, caught up in a couple of incidents at some of the races earlier on, but today was definitely just a driver error incident. But again, that certainly happens. Building experience in the league, getting familiar with racing these guys, especially on these road courses, that'll come. I think definitely look out for that 19 car, if not just for race wins, but even for a championship run later in the season if he finds that consistency.
And we should give props to the virtual track crew here at Mid-Ohio for getting all those cones placed back after Chad Frankenfield took them out a few laps ago.
Absolutely, yeah. They're allowing these drivers to enjoy the racing, or, well, we hope it's the crew that took them out and then not a driver flying down and trying to attack those cones. But
oh no, we saw the crew. Remember, we saw Frankenfield send all the cones flying, and then they were all put back into place.
Oh, they were stacked back there. All right, great.
Yeah,
so,
they're back in that place after we saw the cone confetti.
Fantastic. There you see. Oh, we've got a car stopped on the racetrack. That's the 16 car.
And
Joe
there
McAdary.
they go again.
So Joe McAdary stopped on the racetrack. We'll check out the iRace Online replay. Was that another engine failure? I wonder.
This is unusual.
It certainly is. Let's take a look and see what happened here. The 16 car through the keyhole. See if there's anything kind of suspicious. Just slow off the corner. I don't see any smoke or anything, but yeah, just locks up the tires and stationary there. So kind of a strange situation there. And
Yeah, Joe told me after the last race at Milwaukee that he misjudged his tires and wound up having to run the final 172 laps at Milwaukee on one set of tires.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that'll certainly be an
That'll make your day.
Yeah, wow. I'm amazed those didn't pop.
Well, you got to give credit to the folks at Firestone. They build good virtual tires, too.
Absolutely. The battle for the lead, though, certainly heating up as Eric Troiano continues to eat away slowly into that gap that Henry Bennett has. He's going to have a pretty significant advantage down the straightaway, but Bennett doing a good job there, defending to the inside all the way up to the corner. But there you go, a little bit wide through turn 4. Could that give the opportunity for Eric Troiano?
Let's see if Troiano comes back on the inside. He's not going to make it at this turnaround as Henry Bennett pulls away a little bit. Just about a quarter of a second ahead. Troiano under pressure from Bensi right behind him.
And this could also be the lap that we'd expect to see these drivers coming down pit road, so be wary of that as well to see how this is all going to pan out with strategy and how that plays out. So Troiano comes down, Bensi and Bennett stay out.
This is going to be interesting to see if this helps Troiano later on in the next stint.
Yeah, my guess is Bennett and Bensi are going to come in, as well as Hunter Smith. They're going to come in on that next lap here, but this could potentially be an undercut opportunity here for Eric Troiano there. Generally, there hasn't been too much drop-off in terms of pace overall, maybe about half a second total. It'll still be probably significant enough where these guys were battling so close together that he could jump them both on pit road, but I guarantee you both Henry Bennett and Caleb Bensi are now hustling to get to pit road and make sure that they don't lose those positions to the 14 car.
Our attrition update, we now have 3 drivers out of the race. Andres Cronus officially pulled out along with Ryan Gavel and Adriano Pinheiro.
And I think we might have had our 4th driver join them with Joe McAddery. He's still showing as classified, but 13 laps down, and I think once he hits about 5 minutes on pit road, they'll stop classifying that 16 car.
No, he's completed 13. He's 1 lap down officially.
Oh, excuse me. Yep. So Henry Bennett staying out for another lap. What on earth? An amazing fuel-saving job by this 1 car then to still be out here, because Caleb Bensi, Hunter Smith, Justin Fortner, everybody else coming down pit road right now. But Henry Bennett staying out for another lap. Victor Del Porto might be doing the same thing as Henry Bennett. So both of these guys, again, just pulling out that extra lap of fuel, which again could possibly save them later in the race in terms of taking less fuel or being able to push a little bit harder in a different stint. Bennett, to lead the race and have still used less fuel than everybody else, that's impressive.
He's not been able to draft off of anybody to save fuel that way either, but you can save fuel if you're smart what you're doing in terms of coming off the corners and letting it coast a little bit and doing the Scott Dixon routine.
Absolutely.
But I would expect him to come by this time around.
He must be, yeah, and I think he is. There you go. So
there we
finally,
go.
Henry Bennett onto pit road here, but these drivers also have engine maps available to them, and you can turn the engine down a little bit. That could explain possibly why we saw that gap closing pretty quickly between Troiano and Bensi and Van de Sant to Henry Bennett. He could have been running in a lower engine mode, but that could have given him a huge advantage there to maintain the lead after all of that. The real question is going to be here is Eric Troiano. Where's he going to come out in relationship to Henry Bennett? Bennett with that second pit stall, so he'll be moving pretty quickly, and there he is. This is going to be very close off of turn 1.
Oh, let's see. Can he make it? No, he doesn't make it. Eric Troiano pulls ahead.
Yeah, Troiano pulls ahead, but again, Henry
Not
Bennett
by much.
with those extra 2 laps, though, again, that gives him a little bit more play in the strategy. But yeah, very close between these guys, and Bennett does stay in the second position over Caleb Bensi. So still reasonably successful. Eric Troiano pushing hard right now. That 2-lap undercut definitely enough to get him that position here. We'll see if that advantage stays over the course of the rest of the race here, because now these guys, 2 laps is pretty significant amount of time here offset between the 2 drivers.
And it will make a difference if they can't get close enough to actually save some fuel in drafting on the straights too. So that's going to make a difference as well coming in later on. Troiano's pulled ahead to an 0.8 of a second lead over Bennett.
Yeah, Bennett certainly going to be struggling with some cold tires right now. So defending from Caleb Bensi as well, just needs to get those up to temperature. Looks like once again those are the Reds as Troiano with that free air flying away right now. That 14 car super fast on the racetrack with that fastest lap of the race.
Troiano's lead now a second and a half over Bennett. As Bensey comes around and makes a move on Bennett on the inside. He should make that. He does make that stick heading into the turn.
So that puts Caleb Bensey up to the second position now, 1.8 seconds behind Eric Troiano. Henry Bennett right now struggling to get these tires up to temp or get them to grip the way he wants them to. He's on the reds
too.
Yeah, he is on the red, so you'd expect those to come in pretty quickly. But again, staying out those extra 2 laps from Bensey and Troiano, that means like you've got 2 laps less of heat cycles compared to these, or just heat in the tires compared to those guys that you were fighting with. So expected, but we want to see if Bennett's able to come back at them. He should have fresher tires. He should have less wear on them. Again, different strategy. Bennett probably thinking he's got something up his sleeve still with that running a little bit longer, but long way to go in terms of race strategy here.
Right, we're still only a third of the way into the race, so there's still plenty of time for him to get back up into the lead.
Oh, absolutely a ton of time here to get all of that sorted out. Lots of drivers with different strategy calls here that can make a difference. All these drivers are going to have to drive at least one stint on the Firestone Blacks as well, so keep that in mind. They're going to be required to run those tires, so that could shake things up as well. Who manages those tires better as well?
We've had a couple of incidents on track, but nothing to bring out the caution flag so far as we come down and get ready to complete lap 30 of 90 here at Mid-Ohio.
Joe McAdary shown back, went around for another lap or so, but shown back on pit road as Caleb Bensey throws in the fastest lap of the race, now chasing down leader Eric Troiano. So keep an eye on that battle. Those two who pitted early really starting to go after each other. That gap's still up to about 1.8, 1.5 seconds maybe at the best of time. So Bensey still has a lot of work to do if he wants to get back to Troiano.
Take a lap with Troiano on his in-car, if we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's ride on board here. Get the ups and downs here of Mid-Ohio sports car course with your current race leader, Eric Troiano.
One good thing about these natural road courses is the elevation. You can see going up and down here as he heads down into the keyhole, or into the carousel rather, and past the start-finish line. So we'll follow him around on this entire lap of the Mid-Ohio sports car course. This is one of the faster parts of the track, heading down into the keyhole.
You see just how late he could be there on the brakes because you've got that uphill braking zone. That makes it hard to make that overtake in the keyhole. But now downhill here, you've got, if you're behind a car, you've got a big slipstream. Again, braking downhill as well. This is where you'll see a lot of overtakes made. Again, you get off camber there, slightly offline. You see there Troiano slightly off camber. Once again, an off camber corner here as you try and get it back in order for another back-to-back through the S's. I love this section of the racetrack. Super tricky, but feels amazing when you get it right behind the wheel of one of these race cars.
Oh yeah, heading down into Thunder Valley now, and then down towards the carousel to complete the lap.
You see a shallow entry there for Troiano, and then lets it run out wide to come back in. So that carousel is one of those corners where there are actually a couple of different lines that are options for drivers. You saw that there for the 14 car, and it's working for him. It certainly helps him get some great lap time.
That's a 1.4 second lead now for Troiano over Bensey. Henry Bennett is in third, Alexander Vandersand fourth, Hunter Smith in fifth right now. The Mega Player 86 IndyCar Series on the Elite Racing Channel. Once again, good evening to you. If you're just joining us, I'm Mark Gillespie along with Rishav Khosla, and we are at Mid-Ohio tonight in the Tilson 200.
Absolutely. We're kind of in a bit of a lull kind of in the action right now. Guys kind of spread out about a second between most drivers here. all the way throughout the field, you can see those intervals there. Nobody really close to one another to make battle. So my guess is we've probably reached that point of the race where this stint might be just the extend your race car, extend your stints, get yourself to that next and that second to last and final stints where you're going to have to really start pushing and the race comes back to us. You expect to have that in these longer races like this. You see them at ovals, you see them at road courses, at all the tracks we go to. You just get some of this lull in the action a little bit right now, which is what we're witnessing here at Mid-Ohio.
This is the don't screw up part of the race where you don't want to make any mistakes, but you don't have to push too hard. The objective here is just to get through this and get up to about lap 65 or so, lap 65 to 70, and then just go for the rest of it. Go for those final 20 laps or so and just go till the grid checkered flag.
Basically, yeah, and that's when we'll start seeing things probably close up a little bit. Again, I think when these guys get that required black sidewall set on, that's when we're going to start seeing things get a little bit more hectic, especially if they take them on different stints, things like that. There's a lot of things that can still shake up this race as we've got some closer battles a little bit further back, at least the closest to each other right now, as that's Andrew Marquez kind of slowly chasing down Ryan Schultz here in the 05 car.
Troiano is starting to work his way back through lapped traffic yet again. That could slow him up just a little bit, but shouldn't make up too much of a difference there.
Yeah, Hunter Smith now as well, closing on the back of Alexander Venison. So again, another battle we could see forming here relatively soon on the racetrack. The Venison seems to be extending that back out over the 62 car.
And they're more than 6 seconds behind Henry Bennett in third place. So this is really only a battle for bragging rights right now for fourth and fifth.
Yeah, bragging rights and points, hopefully for them in terms of just getting those results in, trying to get better results to reduce your drop round result, things like that. Help yourself in the standings. Because a reminder, these next two races, or next three races, are going to be very important for all these drivers, because your points order determines. As we've got two cars off the racetrack. The 21 car of Caleb Bensi off the racetrack there, as well as the 12 car of Jay Shallington. Interesting, because could that have been a lapping issue right there with Jay and Caleb Bensi. Let's take a look at that iRace Online replay and see exactly what happened between these two drivers.
We still are on a full course green. No caution flag out. Let's watch as
so this is the Jay Shallington
is in the blue car.
Yep, so there's Eric Troiano getting by. So Shallington kind of slowing down behind. And, Bensi just...
Bensi came down in front of him, it looks like.
Yeah, probably a little bit too aggressive there from Caleb Bensi there. You can't really do much more to get out of the way if you're Jay Shallington. Slow on that inside lane there, and I think that was just Caleb Bensi turning right when that car was unfortunately still there. It's a tricky corner there. You can't really stray too far off the apex for Caleb Bensi, but probably too aggressive there lapping, and you see both of them having to pay the price for that.
Yeah, I think had Bensi been on the inside, that wouldn't have happened, but Shallington was on the apex and on the racing line where he had every right to be, and Bensi just came down right in front of him and cut him off.
Yeah, there's no situations where I really throw that on Jay Shallington. It looks like just aggressive trying to, I think for Caleb Bensi, obviously just that little bit of desperation trying to catch Eric Troiano further up ahead and not willing to slow down at all to lap some traffic. But that's part of the game here. That always has been, and trying to manage the traffic, expect that to come back and forth for you. So unfortunate to see that issue there for Caleb Bensi and Jay Shallington. Bensi is still in the race. He did just, I think he's actually still rolling on the race.
He's down to fifth place, though. Yeah, he's down to fifth place, but I think he's going to have to come in and have some work done.
Yeah, I want to see. There is some damage on that race car, but he hasn't come down pit road, so he's kind of accepted. He's rolling around right now with that damage and trying to finish this stint off so that he has something to do strategy-wise, but could still be a reasonable points day for this 21 car.
But he's not going to have any downforce. It's going to hurt his steering and handling getting around some of these tighter corners. Let's see if he comes in this time by.
keep an eye out on the timing and scoring and see what Caleb Bensey decides to do there. Looks like he stays out, or excuse me, nope, he hasn't come past pit entry quite yet. Now he has, and he does stay out on the racetrack. So Caleb Bensey, once again, going around. So committed to just keeping that car on the racetrack right now. He's got a reasonable enough gap back to 6th place, 14 seconds to Victor Del Porto. So right now, Caleb Bensey kind of operating in a bit of a bubble that works for him, where he can kind of roll around with a damaged car up until his next pit stop.
And Shallington is still in the race as well. He is still on the track.
Yeah, Jay Shallington, a long time down pit road, but he is rolling right now. Seems to have solid pace back in the car that looks like he's running at reasonable speeds there. But yeah, certainly not what either Jay Shallington or Caleb Bensey wanted to see there.
Meanwhile, Eric Troiano out to a almost a 4-second lead over Henry Bennett on lap number 37.
Yeah, impressive job right now by Eric Troiano, just continuing to stretch out, and that last time around about 2.5 to 3/10 of a second faster than Henry Bennett. So to still be faster this late in the run with those older tires. Ooh, as you see there, Hunter Smith getting a little bit wide through turn 1. That can easily go wrong for drivers. Yeah, right now, I mean, this is kind of the closest battle we've got on track. It's Van de Sant versus Hunter Smith, but Smith's been kind of falling back.
Just this lap alone, Troiano has pulled out to a 4.5-second lead now over Bennett. He's widening that lead as we go through each lap now.
Yeah, this pace from Eric Troiano, extremely impressive here. Now that he's got that clean air, now that he's no longer bottled up behind some of these other drivers, Eric Troiano looking extremely impressive. And Henry Bennett, to his credit as well, gapping Alexander Van de Sant. But that he's, unless, again, this is another big fuel save stint from Henry Bennett. Ooh, as we see someone sliding down onto pit road there. Who was that just entered pit lane that locked it all up?
Looked like it might be Will Height.
It was Robert Garcia, the 18 car, actually,
okay.
I believe. But yeah, locked it up. Looks like no damage on that car, but we just caught that. Tricky getting onto pit road there, and seems to have been all right, though.
Be interesting to see whether he was able to avoid a speeding penalty in pit lane. Whoa!
Oh.
There we go.
Chad Frankenfield with a big spin and a great slide to miss it by Brian Blauman. Just missing that, and yeah, just loose off the corner for Chad Frankenfield. Again, easy to do in these cars. They can get very slippery to drive, and there you go. Loses a position after he was getting close to Victor Del Porto in front.
But there's plenty of time left to make up for that.
Absolutely, yeah. Tons of time to make up, to try and fix some of those mistakes that were made earlier on in the race. But yeah, the closest battle on track remains then the one between Hunter Smith and Alexander Van de Sant. Chad Frankenfield was closing up a little bit there, trying to see if he could give us a nice little race to watch here. But nothing quite yet showing up for this middle stint of this race.
Take a look on board with Del Porto.
Absolutely. Here we go. We've got a helmet cam with Del Porto. So here's what that kind of looks like. A little bit of a strange view there. So excuse that. But yeah, that's the helmet cam there. That's kind of what Victor Del Porto generally is seeing.
The aero screen not making much of a difference in visibility at all.
Yeah, it seems to be. I'd imagine it's certainly easier if you've got virtual reality, which I know many of these drivers do have. But even then, I mean, you're typically able to make it work, and your eyes kind of just ignore it after a certain amount of time. Where I find it most difficult is actually on the ovals when you're right up behind another car in front of you. It blocks off where that car is kind of starting to lean and where it's going. You need to have as much information when you're drafting with other cars on the racetrack. But around a track like this, your eyes are mostly peeking towards that front nose or that front left, front right tire, figuring out where to get it positioned for the apex. You're not really looking directly ahead at 2 points.
And to put it into a comparison with your passenger car, it's just like looking out your front window and seeing that pillar right on the right beside the door. You just sort of learn to look around it.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just it's a blind spot effectively, and drivers have gotten used to it. Obviously, the biggest downside to the aero screen in real life that drivers have complained about is that it heats up in the car very quickly, but of course that's not something that these guys have to worry about. So generally no major effect by adding this aero screen these past, I believe this is the second season we're running it here in iRacing. But possibly a little bit of handling, obviously, as it adds some weight pretty high up on the race car. But
Del Porto gets a little bit of a slide in there.
yeah, but as a whole, it's been a pretty seamless transition over from the standard IR18 to the new, I guess you could call them IR20s when they added the aero screens.
Something like that. I don't know if they actually changed the designation for it or just IR18B or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It's also interesting to note in real life, of course, we've been seeing the Halos have made their appearance on the Indy Lights cars. So
yeah,
that's been interesting to see. And obviously, Indy Lights being back is a pretty nice thing to have in real life for sure. Certainly something we missed last year, though. I believe I'm correct in saying, was it this season or was it planned for next that the Freedom 100 is gone?
It's not happening this year. We don't know about the future of it going forward, but I know Road to Indy had its training camp or spring training down at Barber this week. And they had the cars out there with the Halos because they're running the regular Halo. They're not running the aero screen. They're running the Halo in Indy Lights. And we also should note the testing today at Indianapolis in the real world IndyCar Series. Yesterday was pretty much a washout rain-wise, but they were on the track today as Del Porto comes down pit road on lap 43.
About the timeline we'd expect to see for drivers to come down pit road here, lap 43 or so. Maybe a little bit early here for Victor Del Porto, but maybe thinking strategy-wise, he's also on those black sidewall tires, so maybe just trying to get off of those as soon as possible.
Yeah. Eric Troiano in the 14 car is still leading Henry Bennett by about 3.3 seconds. Alexander Vandesant in the 97 is in third. Hunter Smith in fourth. Brian Blauman in fifth. Chad Frankenfield in sixth as we come down on lap number 44 of 90 here at Mid-Ohio. We're about halfway through the Tilson 200 at Mid-Ohio in the Mega Player 86 IndyCar Series on the Elite Racing Channel. Hope you're having fun tonight watching us. As much fun as we're having bringing you the racing tonight.
Yeah, we've always got some pretty good racing here in the IndyCar Series, and once again, Mid-Ohio giving us a very interesting race to follow here as that battle between Troiano, Bennett, and it was Caleb Bensi. He's kind of fallen out a little bit, so it's become a bit more of a two-horse race here, but Henry Bennett, past couple of laps, has closed down that gap a little bit, back down under 3 seconds. I wonder if this is potentially Bennett starting to push a little bit or Troiano just kind of backing off a little bit, something working there. Also later in this stint, you know, we're possibly seeing the tires going off for Troiano where Bennett might have 1 or 2 more laps left on them.
Or he's trying to save some fuel.
Or that as well, yeah. There's certainly that possibility. A lot of things can play in. So that gap slowly kind of creeping down for Henry Bennett, but he's going to have to make a pretty big swing at Eric Troiano here, as it does actually go back up above 3 seconds momentarily there again. So, yeah, it's going to be tough for Henry Bennett, I think, or for anybody to topple Eric Troiano right now, as since he's taken the lead, he's looked utterly dominant.
Since we're probably several laps away from the next round of pit stops, why don't we take a quick break and give our sponsors some love here on the Elite Racing Channel. And we'll be right back from Mid-Ohio as we reach the halfway point of tonight's Tilson 200.
My name is John Cunningham with C2 Freight Resources. We are a Hub Zone certified logistics company here in Houston, Alabama. We've been in business for over 20 years, working with the Department of Defense and the federal government, among many other customers. C2 is committed to truckload shipments along with less than truckload shipments across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Our high level of service is what keeps our customers coming back year after year. Our industry-leading transportation management software, along with our tracking software, allow our customers to know where their shipments are at any time, any day. In closing, C2 Freight looks forward to earning your trust and business through actions day in and day out. We know if given the opportunity, you'll be pleased with our service and communication.
Richmar Florist makes every day a special day, from weddings and large events to that little something for any occasion. Richmar Florist has the perfect floral expression, and they're open online 24/7 at richmarflorist.com. Everywhere, every day. Richmar's 2 retail locations offer a fantastic selection of floral creations, gifts, and home decor. Book your free consultation in our showroom for your special event needs, and visit us online at richmarflorist.com today.
Back at the racetrack with you guys, and of course, the second we go to break, action on the racetrack. Eric Triano with a mistake in the keyhole, as we've got a car around on the front straightaway as well. Trying to see who that was. But just as we go to the commercial break there, Eric Triano with an incident just kind of locks up his brakes there. It was the 31 car down the back straightaway of Tom Holland. You can see him there still rolling, but Triano locks it up heading into the keyhole and ends up losing the lead to Henry Bennett. So this race for the lead very much on once again here up front. Yep, Mark Gillespie back with us here, but yeah, we go away for a break, and of course that's when the action happens.
Yeah, the announcer's curse. We go away for a break, all hell breaks loose on the track.
Absolutely. We just got in before the pit cycles began. We were hoping that there wouldn't be any action before then, but man, oh man, there you go. Henry Bennett now in the lead, but you can see just how close Eric Triano's gotten back to the rear wing of this number 1 car. The race is very much on for this lead here as we come back to pit stop cycles here. So is Triano going to try and undercut for another 2 laps? Could that add up 2 + 2, 4 laps here difference between these guys on strategy? How much is that going to play into effect here later in this race? Right now, these guys are both still out running on the racetrack. Yeah, we'll see how this plays out, but right now it's advantage back in the hands of Henry Bennett.
And watch as Henry Bennett gets up into lapped traffic here.
Yep, I think we had a car just slow there.
That was Shallington, I think, getting out of the way.
I think it was as well. Or no, not Jay Shallington. It might have been somebody else, but I believe it might have been Andrew Marquez in it.
Okay.
Possibly. But yeah.
No, Marquez is too close to the lead. That was lapped traffic.
And as we flip away, there you go, Eric Triano. I need to stop flipping cameras here. Eric Triano to the lead over Henry Bennett. Oh, yeah, great battle here for the lead, but I suspect Triano now going to pull away once again here over Bennett. So after that mistake, does a great job at recovering, getting that position back here. Lost the time, but track position back in the hands of the 14 car.
For now, because they're both getting really close to
and he
pit
goes
stop
straight
time.
to pit road.
As he takes the lead and then goes straight into the pits. Henry Bennett, your leader now, as Triano hits the pits. Alexander Vandersant now in second place, 1.7 seconds behind. Hunter Smith in third, 2.4 seconds behind.
Yeah, biggest thing this has kind of done is given Vandersant a chance to catch up to these guys fighting for the lead. He's now only 1.5 seconds back from Henry Bennett. So, yeah, we'll see how this kind of pans out. I'm curious to see how much longer Henry Bennett goes here. He went 2 laps longer on that first stint. We could see him go all the way up to 4 laps longer on this stint. That becomes a significant number every time it adds up. It could be up to 8 laps later as they head to their final pit stops. That can make a pretty big difference in terms of just how much fuel you take on board your car.
Of course, watch him come in this time around just to throw us off again.
Seems like these past couple laps we can't get anything right up here in the booth, so yeah, that would not surprise me.
Well, we don't have access to their in-car radios, so we don't know what their strategies are, so we're doing the best we can. Let's see if he comes in this time around. Nope, he'll stay out.
Van de Sant stays out as well. Most of these guys also all staying out on the racetrack right now. In terms of guys the top 3 still staying out. Pretty much the rest of the field now on back has come down for their second pit stop, or has been there for a little while. Caleb Bensley obviously has been on this second set of tires for a little bit longer than everybody else, since he had that damage earlier on. But Eric Triano over Bensley, over Blauman, and it was Victor Del Porto just taking over a position from Chad Frankenfield. That battle between those 2 drivers for 6th and 7th position still going on.
And we're looking at Frankenfield and Justin Fortner in the 26 car, the red one.
Yep. Actually, excuse me. Sorry. This is I'm looking at the wrong battle. We've got Victor Del Porto chasing down Brian Blauman. They've got multiple yellow cars here in the field, and yellow and black cars even.
Right.
We do only have one Jordan Formula One throwback in the field now, as Anders Krohn no longer in the race with us. But yes, it is Victor Del Porto versus Brian Blauman now. The closest battle we've got here on the screen.
The one thing with these liveries, as we've pointed out before, is that the numbers are barely visible. We've got cars in the pits now. Van de Sant and Hunter Smith pitting.
Yep. Henry Bennett then goes around for a 3rd lap here over, this would be, he's done 2 laps over Eric Triano already. He'll be doing another more. Yeah, so his 3rd lap over here. Again, we'd expect to see him go 4 laps over. Though, again, wouldn't surprise me if he comes down this lap either.
At this point, almost nothing would surprise us, but...
Fair enough. Gap from Bennett back to Triano, about 23 seconds. So that could potentially... That's going to be close on pit exit here. It's going to have to require a good stop from Henry Bennett. I think Triano will still beat him off just. However, of course... that difference in fuel strategy can make a difference over the course of the run, though. I think once you give Eric Triano fresh air, kind of hard to beat that car. And here you go, Henry Bennett on pit road.
So he basically got, I think, 25 laps out of that almost?
Yeah, that was probably about 25 laps there on that last set. He did 26 laps on the first set, I think 25 laps on this second set, so... Pretty reasonable there. We'll see how this kind of plays out, where Eric Triano is, and there he goes. He's easily by this time. So a big gap there for the 14 car of Eric Triano. Comes out in front of Henry Bennett. Henry Bennett stays out in front of Alexander Van de Sant, but he's on cold tires, so not by a ton. And he's Tyler Fode.
There's a car right in front of him.
Yep, Tyler Fode spins it around there in the keyhole in that 40 car. Really just hasn't been his race here today. We haven't talked about Tyler Fode much, but been up and down pit road a couple of times with some damage. Just hasn't looked super comfortable in these Indy cars as we're normally used to seeing Tyler Fode in stock cars. So transition certainly a big one between the two, so we're seeing that here.
And it's just a good thing that everybody was able to stay out of Tyler's way.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Lock up the brakes into the keyhole or spin it around in the keyhole. You kind of have all that runoff area that you can kind of utilize. Obviously, it's all grass, but stay out of the way of some of these other drivers here. Henry Bennett out on the red sidewall tires. So once again, going to expect to see him then going onto the blacks for the final stint. I'd expect Triano is on the reds as well, I believe. So are all of these drivers, I think, planning to run the black sidewall tires here? Let's take a look.
I'm 100% sure. I thought they ran them earlier. I thought they ran the blacks in the second stint.
Did they? I thought they were running reds last stint there. Of course,
no
way for us to verify. It's tough to see sometimes. This time it looks pretty clear that those are red sidewall tires there on these cars, but maybe they were on the blacks last time around, and they've already gotten those done with. But they might also be finishing the race on the black sidewalls. So it could be a little bit of a shift there in terms of strategy, or an interesting thing in terms of strategy in general here.
Triano's lead is now 3.7 seconds over Henry Bennett.
Yeah, Bennett and Van de Sant's going to be an interesting battle to kind of follow here, as Van de Sant, you can see, closing in still on Henry Bennett. Henry Bennett really, really struggles on these fresh tires compared to everybody else. Just doesn't quite get up to speed the same way that Triano and Van de Sant can. and you see Bennett losing most of his time to Troiano during these early stages, getting it himself up to temperature, and then he starts slowly eating away at it, or at least stabilizing it. But yeah, right now
in these cars with the tools that they have, the weight jackers, how much does that play on a road course compared to an oval in terms of getting your tires up to speed when you're coming out of the pits and on cold tires?
Yeah, so at road courses, actually, in these cars, drivers don't have the weight jackers available to them. Those are typically only at ovals, so you're not changing any of that cross weight. So generally, like you don't see, that's not a tool available to these drivers on road courses. What you can adjust, though, are the anti-roll bars, and so you can stiffen those up, change those a little bit. And that's probably a little bit helpful for drivers. I don't know the effects necessarily for getting the tire heating up. For them, I'd assume you'd probably want softer anti-roll bars to get your tires heated up, but obviously that can hurt your handling, depending on how the balance of the car is. So generally, I'd be surprised if drivers are playing a ton with that. Maybe over the course of the run, they'll adjust the anti-roll bars a little bit, but I'm not 100% sure exactly what they'd be able to do to heat up the tires faster.
Okay. And you could probably cause more problems than you can solve by doing that.
Yeah, I've certainly made big swings at setup with ARB, and it can make some pretty significant changes to the way the car handles, it's certainly nice to have, especially if you don't like the baseline that you're given, since all of these guys are on identical setups, or a fixed setup type racing, but you do have those adjustments. So you can make the car more to your comfort level. It's just outside of that, the adjustments that you can make, especially with anti-roll bar, you've got about 6 adjustments on each bar. It's probably a little bit too big of a jump on some of them where you'll feel that and you'll find you'll get out of balance. It's very easy to upset a driver. There's a term in the vehicle dynamics engineering side of things called the magic number. And they say that the professional drivers or the really good drivers can feel a 0.1% difference in the magic number of the balance of the car.
And the rest of us are lucky if we could feel a 5% difference.
Exactly.
Van de Sande is setting up Henry Bennett here for a move at some point.
You'd expect to see that, yeah. The gap's gone down to about 4/10 of a second here. It's kind of stagnated there. Van de Sande has one more push to pass available to him, 5 to Henry Bennett's 4, but still, yeah, it's kind of tricky. You need to focus on that exit through the keyhole, get the run there, because that's probably your best chance to make an overtake. But right now, it just doesn't look like Van de Sande close enough to Henry Bennett to really be able to make a move.
And Bennett's using all of the track as well. Defending series champion, he knows how to get around this track and around these courses in general, and how to make that car just wide enough to make it harder for Van de Sande to get around him.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we saw that first stint there where Henry Bennett was able to defend so well from Troiano, from Bensi, from Van de Sande, as they all kind of closed in together before the first set of pit stops. So Henry Bennett, great job at defending on this racetrack. In all fairness, of course, also the racetrack, one of the more difficult ones to overtake on the IndyCar calendar. Pretty twisty, right. A lot of medium speed corners that make it very difficult to run side by side, but also a great defending job by Henry Bennett.
This is one of the more classic technical tracks on the circuit, and you're seeing the leaders running into lapped traffic now. That's going to start slowing things up and making it a little more interesting. Troiano's lead is down to 2.8 seconds because of that lapped traffic.
Yeah, so that battle up front can hopefully close down. We got a nice little three-way scrap for P5 here. Caleb Bensi defending from Brian Blauman and Victor Del Porto. All these guys within about a second between the three of them. So potentially brewing into a pretty good battle here. If we can, see, if Blauman can get close to the back of Bensi, or if Del Porto can get to the back of Blauman.
I thought we had someone in the pits there for a second, but I couldn't tell who it was.
Doesn't look like any cars sitting on.
It was one of the yellow cars as we went through the pits, and as we were going by that last shot, and I couldn't quite tell who it was.
Yeah, could potentially be someone who hasn't disconnected from the lobby yet, where their car's still showing on pit road.
That could be.
Yeah.
Although they did look like they were moving.
Yeah. It was Nick DeGroot. Nick DeGroot, I believe, actually, with Yeah, that's pretty interesting there, actually. That it looks like he just towed to the pit road. So
Okay.
might be some damage there, pretty severe damage on that 89 car. We can check out the iRace Online replay, see what
Okay.
happened to this 89 car. And it does look like the keyhole strikes again here. Let's take a look and see what happens to Nick DeGroot. Slightly offline there, and there you see
Yep.
it just gets off camber and hard into that outside wall.
That'll do it.
Yep, there you go. So Nick DeGroot, big damage on that car, has to tow it back to pit road, and there you see him stationary and has been for about the past 45 or so seconds.
Back to our leaders now.
Yep, this battle for second still raging on here as Van de Sant about 0.4 of a second right now, still behind Henry Bennett. A little bit further back, that battle for fifth position. Let's take a look there as that's closing up a little bit, as Brian Blauman was within 0.2 of a second down that back straightaway. Probably going to lose a little bit of time here down through the S's. We've got some close fights on track, but no overtakes quite yet, as guys are trying to find the best way past other drivers.
Still have at least one more round of pit stops left for all of the leaders.
Absolutely, yes, we do. And I think I know why we've got a bit of a battle here. You see there, black sidewall tires on this 21 car. I think they're red sidewalls on Brian Blauman. Remember, Blauman was running, I think, those black sidewalls on the very first stint, so he could be quick in the later stages here, try and nab a top 5. We haven't seen, I don't actually know what finishes we've seen from Blauman. He's shown some good pace, but I don't think he's made it to the finish of any of these races yet this season.
I am looking at the scoring from the season so far. He has completed all 3 races, but really nothing to speak of in terms of any successes. He did have a his best finish is 13th in the at the Michigan race, and the only race where he was running at the end was Homestead in the first race. The other 3, he was out of the race in all 3.
Yeah, I think I remember actually. Brian Blauman, one of those cars that's been involved in a lot of instances, I think caught up in other people's wrecks a number of times. So I don't think he's been super lucky as well, but has shown good pace there. That 5th place starting position at Milwaukee as well, kind of showing out there, looking like solid pace on the ovals. We'll see. Yeah. How that translates. Obviously, I think, again, for him trying to get points to get a better starting position for Indy 500 qualifying, is right now he sits 17th in the running order.
We will bring you all the action for Indy 500 qualifying in a couple of weeks here on the Elite Racing channel.
Alexander Van de Sant has completed the move on Henry Bennett there while we were watching that battle for 5th position. Van de Sant probably got that move done through off of the keyhole and down that back straightaway would be my assumption there. But a good move there by the 97 car. 3.4 seconds back from Troiano right now, though. But for Henry Bennett, just kind of hanging on right now, it seems. He's already dropped 1.2 seconds to the 97.
And we should note that Indy 500 qualifying here on the Elite Racing channel will be 3 weeks from tonight, April 30th. A week ahead of the running of the Richmar Florists Indianapolis 500 on May 7th. Next week, we will be at Phoenix for the Bird Racing 250. Once again, 7:30 Eastern Time. Start time here on the Elite Racing channel. Looking forward to bringing you that one as well. We are on lap 61 of 90, 2/3 of the way through tonight's race here at Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how Phoenix races with this new package. I think we did one race back in 2018, right when we just introduced this aero package, and that was the last Phoenix race. That one turned out to be a fantastic one all the way at the end there, between, I think it was Joseph Newgarden, Robert Wickens, and Alexander Rossi fighting it out for the win there. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Phoenix looks like in these cars on iRacing.
I think so too, especially I don't know if you know or not, but have they done the updates at Phoenix to reflect the track reconfiguration?
I believe so. So they don't, like, with the that big dog leg that the NASCAR side uses?
Yeah, but remember they switched to the starting line from the middle of the what used to be the front stretch down in between the turns, down in between turns 1 and turn 2.
Sure, yeah.
When they reconstructed the entire track.
Yeah, I don't think they've actually moved that that start line, but I think the that big wide like dog leg is still there, because I know that used to be grass. So I don't know the exact year that track was last updated, but I do know it's not like the very, very most recent configuration. Should say, though, Alexander Van de Sant has had a very impressive pace over the course of these last couple laps. I've kind of been watching him over a second faster than Eric Troiano on that last lap around. Van de Sant put in a 108.1. He's still got a lot of pace on those tires, and that gap down from 3.4 seconds to 1.6. Look out for this 97 car. He's on a tear right now.
He is, and he has opened up his lead to a second and a half or so over Henry Bennett now after getting by him a lap or two ago. Hunter Smith, Caleb Benzie round out your top 5, along with Troiano in the lead. We are probably, realistically, about 10 laps away from our next round of pit stops.
Yeah, that sounds about
should
right.
be the final round.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's ride with Van de Sant for a second here. He's really starting to make some nice moves here on Troiano.
Absolutely. Let's take a look here and kind of see just the pace and how you extract a really great lap time around this Mid-Ohio circuit.
The only disadvantage with this view is that you can't see when he's hitting the brakes, and you can't see the telemetry just to get an idea of when he's on the brake, where his shift points are as well.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be great information for us to be able to have. I think it's actually, even if I think we had the software to show it, iRacing tries to
I don't think we have it, so.
Excuse me?
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, even if we had, I think that, I know software exists for us to allow to see some of that telemetry, but iRacing actually has a lot of great like anti-cheat software that actually makes it so that you can't just directly copy and paste like a driver's lines and things like that. So it's sometimes difficult to actually see all those inputs. That's something we should definitely look into to trying to get in the future, because that'd be great information for people watching at home. We do have a car off in the carousel. That is the 12 car.
That would be Jay Shallington off. The last car running right now in 17th position.
Yep, Jay Shallington there just rolling out of the way of all of the leaders, gets onto pit road. So again, no caution flag, no issues there. But yeah, not what Jay Shallington needed. Has not been a very straightforward day for Jay.
And you can copy and paste another driver's lines, but that doesn't mean you can necessarily follow them.
Oh, absolutely. Chad Frankenfield could potentially be the first driver to pit last, or is that damage on that 15 car that I see?
Hard to see from this angle.
He's on pit road and been there for about 35 seconds, so we might have damage for this 15 car. Let's head to the iRace Online replay and actually take a look and see what happened to Chad Frankenfield. He was running up inside the top 10, well inside the top 10 here earlier on in this race. Oh, I believe it might have been Chad Frankenfield and Jay Shallington that had that incident here. So we saw the aftermath with Jay Shallington, but I believe there was another car involved there.
There's Shallington up ahead.
So Shallington spins it around, and Chad Frankenfield just clips the outside
Chad
of
got
that.
into Shallington.
Yeah.
That is our iRace Online replay. iRace Online has been racing and building simulators for over 20 years. They can engineer, configure, install, and support a turnkey full-motion driver simulation for you. They work with iRacing, Fanatec, Rick Motec, and SimGear. If you'd like to find out more about opportunities in esports with iRace Online, visit them at irace.online. I want to thank them for sponsoring our replays.
Absolutely. Here you go. This is what we're watching. The battle here between Eric Troiano and Alexander Van de Sant. Again, another 0.3 of a second there for Van de Sant off of Troiano, and he's now under that second, between the two these two leaders. Look out for Alexander Van de Sant. The question is, though, will he get to the back of this 14 car before pit stops, or can he get close enough where he can perform an undercut or an overcut to try and get past on pit road?
Well, he has 2 fewer laps on this stint than Troiano does. He's on his 16th lap. Troiano's on 18.
Yeah, so
So it's going to be interesting to see when Troiano decides to pull in.
Yeah, so still a few laps available, of course, to these drivers on this set of fuel here, as it looks like it's gotten a little bit darker on the racetrack, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We might have a little bit of a cloud there just blocking off the sun, and for a brief moment probably there. Again, it'll be, expect to see Troiano come down pit road earlier, but that should give him a bit of an advantage. So could we see Van de Sant short pit here and take that little bit less fuel because he's got more fuel sitting on board right now on that car in theory. So he can save some time on pit road, or he can save some time by, taking fuel later and pitting later. There's some strategy games to be played here between these two drivers, and I'm sure they're trying to think how to top each other on and off pit road.
Let's watch and see if either one of them hits for the pits. Not this time, Rye. Realistically, they still have at least, Troiano should have maybe six laps left of fuel. 8 or so for Van de Sant if you go look at a 25 lap stint.
Yeah, the thing is that for them, the window it has just opened. That past lap, I think, was the first lap where they were allowed to go down pit road and they could pit without being worried about fuel saving. So now it's kind of a game of when do you just kind of want to make it down pit road. And the way I see it is you probably want to be the first guy to pit last year. There is an advantage to fresh tires. You can make some extra lap time there briefly on those fresh tires, but also, if I'm correct in saying that these guys haven't run the black sidewall tires, they could leave it all the way until they run these tanks dry, and for Van de Sant, that means 2 less laps on those black sidewall tires, and that could be significant. It all comes down to whether or not I was able to see the correct color on the sides of the tires 2 stints ago.
And remember it.
And remember it correctly, exactly.
Yeah, we got to start taking notes on that stuff.
Figure out a way that we can, somehow be able to see all of that information, or just flip through every driver throughout the race and just take a note on what tire they're taking.
Yeah. We need a spotter for that.
I was gonna say, if you're watching and want to apply to be our pit lane reporter, absolutely, we will take applications for that. I'm more than happy to have somebody there to keep an eye on what these guys are doing strategy-wise when Mark and I are a little bit too busy or trying to follow a single battle and not paying attention to everybody that we should be.
Or when you've got 14 cars on the track and the other 12 are in the pits and we can't keep track of everybody.
Exactly.
Like I said, iRacing, the one feature that they don't have is they can tell us how many times, how many laps they've gone between pit stops. They can tell us how many push to passes they still have left, but they can't tell us red tires or black tires and who's on what. Next time by, we'll be at 20 laps to go.
Yeah, race coming to a close here as I think that's the 29 car off the pit road, so he's made his final stop, so has Victor Del Porto. Caleb Bensi as well has been on and off pit road within the last couple of laps, 4 laps ago, so he's right on the edge of making it there. You see there Tyler Cody just kind of pulling off the side of the road as here you go, Van de Sant within about 0.4 of a second again, still close to that Eric Troiano car. It's still that top 4, Troiano, Van de Sant, Bennett, and Smith, who've not been down pit road quite yet, but I think those 4 are the drivers who still have to take those black sidewall tires, so wait until it is absolutely as late as possible so you can spend the fewest number of laps on those tires.
Troiano's up to about a 0.6 of a second lead over Van de Sant as they head for the carousel. Whoa, that was Bensi, I think.
No, that's Van de Sant.
No, that's Van de Sant.
Alexander Van de Sant.
Around. Your second place car, Van de Sant, now is down to 4th place. He's lost several seconds. Bennett has moved into 2nd. Hunter Smith in 3rd. Van de Sant in 4th.
Yeah, a huge mistake there from Alexander Van de Sant. He was really pushing down Eric Troiano, but pushed himself just that little bit too far. spun it around and is now down into 4th position here. About 10 total seconds back from Eric Triano. It's going to be a tough order to ask that 97 car to make up those 10 seconds in the next 20 laps.
Especially if he flat spotted those tires.
Yeah, for sure. There could be something up with those tires right now. Overheated as well.
Can we get a replay on that and see what happened?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of came out of nowhere there. Alexander Van der Sent was looking so comfortable behind the wheel of that 97 car, and then that was very sudden there as he was just kind of pushing to get past Eric Triano. So here we go. Van der Sent, the car on your screen right now, right behind Eric Triano, gets on the throttle just that little bit too early and spins it around. Just a simple case of driver error and you know, spinning up those rear tires. Probably a little bit of wear on them as well, and there you go.
That's almost like what Newgarden did at Mid-Ohio in the real race a couple of years ago at Mid-Ohio towards the end.
Oh, yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I remember that race, actually, because I was nothing against Joseph Newgarden, but I was fairly happy about that mistake regarding the championship picture, as that was certainly getting down to crunch time when that race took place.
That was with that gave the race to Dixon, I think, if I remember right.
It gave the race to Dixon and helped Alexander Rossi close some of that points gap up.
Yeah.
Troiano has been up and down pit road now, so we'll take a look, and those are the black sidewall tires on that 14 car. So here we go.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah, those are black sidewall tires.
Yeah.
All right. Just want to make sure I'm seeing things right.
Yeah. Nope. Those are the black tires.
All right. So there you go. Troiano has met that regulation. Now he's going to head around 17 seconds back from Van der Sent. Obviously, still well ahead of Alexander Van der Sent. Question is Henry Bennett, Hunter Smith, what can those guys do? Can they hang out for a little bit longer, pull out a bit of a gap over the 14 car, and possibly win this race by having that better pace on this on these red sidewall tires right now?
It's going to be interesting to see how fast Troiano's tires warm up too.
Yeah, that could be a big factor, and of course if these guys are pitting much later, they could come out around Troiano, but with much colder tires, could easily lose that position. So still very much to play for. Still looks like a big advantage for Eric Troiano, though, as he came in with about a 4-second gap to 2nd place. It's going to take like I said, a pretty major swing for Henry Bennett to try and pass that leader.
Well, Bennett, remember, still has those 2 or 3 laps in hand from earlier. When he was running longer stints.
So again, possibly 4 or 5 laps advantage for Henry Bennett to run less time on these tires, and it's actually, the gap's extended a little bit, about half a second since Eric Troiano came down pit road. About 22.7 seconds right now. Still nowhere near enough to what Henry Bennett needs to come down pit road, and obviously he's going to be pretty limited soon here by how much fuel he's got left in that tank.
Right, he's on 22 laps on this stint. He maybe 3 to 4 laps more at most, I would think. Now this is Fode in front of this pack right now. He's gonna have to get out of the way here for them, right?
Yeah, I'd imagine there you see Tyler Fode getting off the side on the racetrack. There's no reason to interfere with these drivers here, but here you go, Van der Sent versus Hunter Smith for 2nd position.
And Van der Sent goes to the inside. Can he make that move stick on the inside? Just barely over Hunter Smith. Smith tucks in behind him, heading into the left-hander through the S's here.
Van der Sent into current 2nd position, but net 3rd position is what I'd imagine here, as Troiano or Bennett, Van der Sent, and Hunter Smith haven't come down pit road as yet. They're still stretching out this stint here over Eric Troiano.
And Van der Sent is still almost 4 full seconds behind Henry Bennett.
Yeah, hasn't been able to close down too much there. A little bit faster on that last lap, about 4/10. So he could potentially still snag a 2nd place finish, but still not enough of a gap back to Eric Troiano, who is now starting to get temperature inside those black sidewall tires, and even closing up that gap to the leader, Henry Bennett.
We should be seeing Van der Sent and Smith hitting this time by, I would think. They're going to be cutting it very close if they don't stop this time by. let's see what happens here. Smith is in the pits. Van de Sant stays out.
There we go. And Henry Bennett as well, still out on the racetrack. So right now, 4 laps is the offset between Bennett and Troiano, or Bennett, Van de Sant, and Troiano.
Right, Smith is away.
Hunter Smith, I mean, shout out to Hunter Smith. He's had a quiet race here. He's kind of run his own thing, but a solid P4 here, especially after that incident with Caleb Bency, making that mistake running into Jay Shallington. Was briefly past Van de Sant as well, who made a mistake, but still a very solid result here to be so far ahead of P5, and still reasonably in touch with these leaders here, even if slightly off cycle.
Let's see if Van de Sant hits the pits this time by. He's in.
Here we go, and Henry Bennett as well. So both these guys on pit road. Troiano coming around the carousel right now. Again, we'd expect Troiano to comfortably take the lead here over these 2 drivers.
And here he comes.
There you go. There goes Bennett off of pit road. No competition there. Easily around for Eric Troiano, and Henry Bennett has to also deal with those cold tires. So right now, it's all looking good for Eric Troiano. But of course, we've seen him make a mistake before up here in this keyhole. He's just got to be patient. He's got a solid enough lead here, and Henry Bennett's probably got 2 or 3 laps here before those tires get to be warm enough where Troiano can kind of relax a little bit before he has to push to the finish of this race.
And let's take a look at Bennett's tires and see if he's on the blacks or reds. He's on the reds. So he ran the blacks earlier.
Is he?
No, the wheels. The rims
wheels are
red.
red. Yep, the wheels are. That's it. Yeah, I was confused about that as well. The wheels are red, but it looks like the sidewalls on the tires are are black. So
you're right. We need a rule for that. No red rims when we're running on road courses.
I'm certainly in favor of that. Yeah, that was very tricky to tell that apart, because from afar that certainly looks like red sidewall.
Oh, yeah.
That red all kind of splashes together.
Oh yeah.
And Van de Sant, I'm guessing, let's take a look at his tires as well. Zoom in a little bit. Those are black sidewalls. Yep. All right. So everyone on the black sidewalls late here in this race. The gap for Henry Bennett to Eric Troiano, 1.9 seconds there, and probably growing here as Bennett's still trying to get up to speed.
Let's see, Bennett's cut the lead to about 1.8 seconds. At least he's in the camera shot with Troiano.
What can Henry Bennett do here? Obviously, again, still a solid points day in championship picture-wise.
Yeah.
Of course,
he can coast from here.
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't have to challenge Troiano for the win.
Yeah, there's really no. I mean, obviously, I'm sure Henry Bennett would love to try and fight for that win, but where it stands, Eric Troiano is 12th in points. His primary rivals, Adriano Pinheiro, Andrew Marquez, Caleb Benci, all have had issues today. So the way it's looking, Alexander Van de Sant as well, if you want to round out that top 5 in points. Yeah. So for Henry Bennett as a whole, a positive points day.
Yeah,
obviously, I'm sure he'd like to fight for the
relax and relax, take your second place, and maintain the points lead.
Absolutely, yeah, and this ability to extract these top finishes, still be there in second, third, fourth place, to still be there. Even when you don't have a race-winning car, that's what puts together a championship run. We talked about it at the top of the show, and that's why Henry Bennett is leading this points standings and will be leading by a larger margin at the end of the day.
He came into the race with a 3-point lead. He should lead with maybe a 40-point lead, I would think.
It'll be pretty significant, I'm sure. Crazy when you think his drop round is a 7th place finish right now.
Considering that he has 25-point lead over Andrew Marquez, and a 31-point lead over Caleb Bensi, and a 33-point lead over Van der Sant coming into tonight's race. Bennett's going to come out of this race on top of the point standings no matter what.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No doubts there. It's you know, he could probably be in a position where he can coast for the next two races. Obviously, I'm sure he won't, but he can coast for the next two races and be pretty confident that he'll be the last guy to go and have the best track conditions for Indy 500 qualifying.
Yeah.
So that's ultimately the game a lot of these guys are playing, is get that good track position. Some of them, even the drivers who are well out of the championship picture right now, the focus is just get that good track position, because the temperature change and the way the car handles from, that early afternoon to late afternoon is massive at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Every little tiny change in the temperature, in the weather, in the wind conditions, that's enough to change your run completely, as Troiano
Whoa.
with a mistake.
Was that Troiano?
That was Troiano, and here we go. The battle for the lead is suddenly very much alive here.
No, it's a 7/10 of a second lead.
It's down to 2/10. There you go. They just crossed that next timing line. It was just in the middle of the timing line there.
Right.
3.5 tenths of a second between the two leaders.
What happened to Troiano?
I think he might have
Is
just
that just
overshot
a brain
it.
fade or what?
Let's take a look here. Oh, let's see what we can find.
Troiano hasn't put a wheel wrong tonight until just now.
Yeah, this has been really strange here, but yeah, let's take a look. Well, he did have that one small mistake in the keyhole, which lost him the lead to Henry Bennett initially.
But I mean, this was just like a whoa! He just drove it off the track.
Yeah, just seemed to lose any kind of front end grip there. He did a great job at getting the grip once he got back on track and not spinning it around. But yeah, there you go. Battle very much on for the lead now. 0.4 of a second between Troiano and Bennett. What can Bennett do to try and take this away? I think Troiano's still got the faster car, and since he's got track position, he still has that advantage. But he spins it around
and he did it again. And Bennett comes underneath him and takes it. Van der Sant's by. Troiano's now in third.
So 2 mistakes, 2 laps in a row, both up there in the carousel for Eric Troiano, throwing away a dominant victory.
Is that a suspension issue? Is that the Firestone black tires? What is it?
My suspicion would be, Firestone black tires. I think that initial spin or that initial issue was the fronts didn't grip the way he expected them to. I think what happened after that, though, is when he slid back onto the racetrack, he overheated those rears, and they haven't cooled down since. So he took it into the corner, put the power down on the rears, and just spun it around again.
And he may have had some grass on those tires on the fronts, too.
Yeah, absolutely. So now Alexander Van der Sant, who spun it around and was 10 seconds off the lead, is suddenly back in contention for the lead, this time fighting against Henry Bennett, who we know Van der Sant has been faster than today. What a crazy turn of events.
Cars left. We still have 16 cars left in the race. We ought to be proud of this, considering how we've done attrition-wise so far this season.
It's been incredible, though, to see just that all of these drivers
9 on the lead lap
have made mistakes here today, except for Henry Bennett, I think. He's been kind of slow and steady in general.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's had top 3, top 4 pace in the car itself. That's not very slow. But compared to the speed that Troiano and Van der Sant have shown, he's been a little bit more slow and steady. But that steady's been pretty crucial because that's given him the lead here late in this race.
Slow and steady and no screw-ups wins the race.
Yeah, seriously, this is kind of crazy the way these final few laps are shaping out. Again, still a lot to play for, as we just saw. It can all change in the span of a single corner.
And Van der Sant had a bobble there coming through the carousel, too, or through the keyhole.
Yeah, so Van der Sant right now, I'm sure he's starting to push a little bit harder because that win is suddenly a reality once again for him. But the question is, can he hold on to these tires? These guys are pushing. The tires, though, can't hold on to the same speeds that they're carrying through the corners that they were earlier on in this race, or that they're used to, because they just went from the grippiest tires to the ones with next to no grip, comparatively.
Bennett's lead up to almost 7/10 of a second now. Here we go. Let's see if they can get through here this time. Let's keep an eye on Troiano as he comes through. He's clean this time.
Yep, clean, does a good job. That gap, 6.5 tenths of a second. That time by is, a car off the track there. They have to kind of duck and dive. That's Tyler Fode. We've seen that a couple of times. Fode just kind of getting around, getting some laps in so he can get points here. Again, stays out of the way of the drivers, but I think might have bobbled Van der Sant a little bit there. But here we go. Once again, Van de Sant has 5 times on the button that he can use. Henry Bennett has 2. That could be the difference in advantage right there between these two drivers at the end of this race.
We still have 9 cars on the lead lap, although they should be getting fairly close to Andrew Marquez to put him a lap down.
Yep, they should be getting pretty close there.
Well, they've gotten past. Okay, now he's now being shown as a lap down, so we now have 8 cars on the lead lap.
It'd be Justin Fortner.
And Justin Fortner's the next one in.
So Justin Fortner right now just going into the carousel as we speak, so probably about 5 or so seconds back from Justin Fortner. I'd assume they wouldn't catch him that quickly, as Van de Sant's fallen back a little bit there, but we'll see. I don't think lap traffic will play much of a role in this race, so it's going to be all up to Van de Sant to close that gap to Henry Bennett and put the move in. Again, I think he's got to, if he has the fuel, he needs to use that push to pass here. He's got 3 extra uses on the button over Henry Bennett, and with 5 laps to go, he's got to use 1 a lap here effectively.
Yeah, this would be the good time to use it on the straightaway coming down through here.
Yeah, close that gap in, get to the rear bumper of that, the rear wing of that one car, and yeah, just try and line yourself up for the move here. Possibly.
Yeah, we're not in the truck series anymore. We don't have bumpers.
I have to remind myself every single time because, yeah, I use that so much in the Cup Series.
Whoa!
Van de
Looks
Sant.
like Van de Sant almost lost it going through there.
Yeah, a little bit of a bobble there, just loose there with these cars. They're not able to get the rear grip, not able to get power down in the rear off of these corners, but he's doing a great job. You can see just how well he corners and how much speed he carries through the corners versus Henry Bennett. The thing is, Bennett has great exit off of the corners that matter onto these really long straightaways that give you a chance to overtake. So Van de Sant's going to have to pull off something pretty extraordinary here to win. And we are going to come to 5 laps to go here. This is where, again, if you're Alexander Van de Sant, you might even want to use the push to pass over here so that you're right on the back bumper. I said it again. Back gearbox, or the gearbox of Henry Bennett's car.
We're going to start the fine jar for every time you say bumper, Rich.
Fair enough. Oh, man.
Okay, I kid. Okay.
If this was the DW12, I wouldn't be too wrong there.
Yeah, that's true.
So here we go, and Van de Sant on the button that time around. We just saw that click down from 5 to 4 uses, so he used that time to try and get a little bit closer, close that gap into Henry Bennett. What can he do to get to the back of this one car?
He's still about almost half a second back.
It's going to take something pretty significant again, because by the time he gets to the button, it takes such a long time to close on. Again, an absolute credit to Henry Bennett. We know how well he defends his position. And obviously there's just not a lot of opportunities to overtake at this racetrack. So right now, I'd still not blame you at all for giving that advantage to Henry Bennett. He's got the track position, which is ultimately so important at this racetrack.
We're down to 4 laps left. Still with just about a half a second lead.
Ooh, we've got
and
a car
somebody's off the track.
Car off the racetrack there. Let's take a look. That's the 31 car. That's Tom Holland there, just, again, staying out of the way of some of these other guys, keeping it moving there, no caution thrown. So, again, no concerns there.
We have been caution-free all night long. Van de Sant makes a little bit of a move, tries to see if he can make a test on Henry Bennett coming up on the inside. Tucks in behind him coming down through the S's.
Here we go. Look at how close Alexander Van de Sant is. This is the closest he's been since taking over that second place again. And where can he try and get that move on Henry Bennett? Can he just stay close enough so that they get to the straights? He's there, and there you see a wide entry to the carousel. Is that going to give him the runoff that he needs, though?
I think so, because Bennett takes that nice tight run through the carousel, and it's getting him a little bit more of an advantage each time. Although, I may be wrong, because Van de Sant pulled it within 0.3 of a second now.
Here we go. He's closing it in. There's blocking from Henry Bennett. It's all about the exit here for Van de Sant. He's going to have that button. He can use that, but he's going to be down to that last usage, and I'm sure Henry Bennett using it as well. So both of them on the button, this time down the back straightaway. So both of them with that extra power boost by the push to pass here. So no move for Van de Sant this time around. He's got to stay close, though, because Henry Bennett has just one more lap that he can utilize, or one more chance to utilize the button, while Van de Sant still has 2.
Bennett with the advantage, though, heading into the S's. Coming around now to head up the into Thunder Valley.
Here we go. Once again, that wider entry for Van der Sant. Can he get it turned in? Can he get closer? He's a little bit further back there that time around, and looks like he's fallen back big time to Henry Bennett. So definitely
he lost almost half a second that time by.
Yeah, definitely not going to be close enough on this run through. Can use it the push to pass to get a little bit closer possibly. But yeah, right now it's gonna take a big swing for Alexander. Excuse me, gonna take a big swing for Alexander Van der Sant to get close to Henry Bennett here as we're getting close to the end here. 2 laps to go.
Let's watch as it's down to 78 hundredths of a second right now, just under 8 tenths of a second for Bennett.
And again, a masterful defending job that he's been doing here, just making sure, like we said, not the fastest car on the racetrack here today, but has been the most consistent, and when he's had the position, has defended. There you see that deep dive from Alexander Van der Sant, just trying to get that run off the corner. He's closer this time. Here we go.
We are down to the final lap here from the last call for WhiskeyCast.com. If you're into whiskeys, sorry about that. If you're into whiskeys, you want to listen to our weekly podcasts at WhiskeyCast.com, as well as our live Friday night webcasts just before the Elite Racing League webcasts here on YouTube. Henry Bennett with a lead of about 3 tenths of a second as we head down into the final lap here at Mid-Ohio. Rich, go ahead and call it from here.
Well, yeah, that was kind of the last opportunity, realistically, for Alexander Van der Sant to get to the back of Henry Bennett, and he tried. Credit to that 97 car. He tried to get past through the corners and get a run off, and he's still there, can still pull something off, but he's running out of corners to get it done. Henry Bennett has done a masterful job here today defending over this number 97 car. Alexander Van der Sant has had a lot of pace. I'm sure he's going to be thinking at the end of this one, what could have been if he hadn't had that spin here through this final corner. But the man who kept all 4 wheels on the racetrack all day long, Henry Bennett, wins at Mid-Ohio, grabbing his 2nd win of the season. A great drive by your reigning champion and your championship leader.
And Henry Bennett, once again, with his 2nd win of the season, ties Adriano Pinheiro for the most wins so far. But we'll have a much larger points lead in the standings over Pinheiro, who finished, shall we say, last tonight after an incident early on.
Yeah.
And basically, not sure what happened there, but he wound up out of the race. And looks like it was Krone that blew the engine. Pinheiro just had an accident.
Yeah, so Adriano Pinheiro with that crash on the first lap, he is officially classified as last. Anders Krone had the blown engine, of course. That took him out. I think we had officially, what is that, 1, 2, 3?
We had 8 cars left in the lead lap.
Yeah.
And I think 9 or 10 cars running.
Yeah, about 7 cars or so out of the race officially there, as a lot of them come to a halt there, finish it up. But victory lap time for Henry Bennett, of course. Enjoy this one, and the celebrations on that front straightaway. We'll get a chance to hopefully speak to our top 3 here within a few minutes for you.
And let's round out the top 10. Henry Bennett, Alexander Van der Sant, Eric Troiano comes in 3rd, Hunter Smith 4th, Caleb Benzie 5th, Brian Blauman 6th, Victor Del Porto in 7th, Justin Fortner in 8th, Andrew Marquez in 9th, and Tyler Fode rounds out your top 10.
Yeah, impressive for Tyler Fode there to bring that home top 10. Good job there to bring home the result there, despite not necessarily looking the most comfortable in the car. Just keeping it on the racetrack, that can do a lot for you to grab those points. Yeah, keeping it running can certainly get you a lot of points there. And there you see a lot of drivers who ran into a lot bigger issues here today. Stopped the car for long periods of time. We're able to get out some running and grab some laps there to finish, but outside of that top 10, there are not a lot of cars still moving at the end of this race.
And we're waiting for our top 3 finishers to join us in the In the broadcast booth here, once again, you are watching the Mega Driver 86 IndyCar Series. Henry Bennett, your winner tonight at virtual Mid-Ohio race sports car course in Lexington, Ohio, just north of Columbus. The real world IndyCars will be racing there later this summer.
Still waiting on some of these drivers to hop on here. Got to see if we can request any of them to join our waiting room here. I don't see any of them though available.
Alexander Vandersand is in the waiting room.
Fantastic.
Let's go ahead and bring him in while we're waiting for Henry to join us. Alexander Vandersand, our second place finisher tonight. That was really tough there at the end. You were using the entire track to try to catch up to Henry.
Oh yeah, I was hanging on for dear life there. Man, I wanted to take the black tires in that second to last stint, but I forgot to switch, so I had to do the short stint right at the end. But fortunately, everybody else was on that strategy for some reason. So yeah, I was able to be close. But
I think all of you guys are trying to avoid using the black tires until the absolute last minute possible.
Yeah, we were. They were just slower. The new tire model still needs a little tuning. There's just no real advantage unless maybe you have a super hot track. So the red tires were fine throughout their whole stint. You just had to take care of the rears, but the black tires behave the same way, just less grip. So it was tricky.
We saw a couple of bobbles from you in those last couple of laps trying to catch up to Henry. Did you have anything at all for him?
I mean, I did, but I just couldn't quite get close enough to have enough of a draft on him. The only real passing spot is into the keyhole, maybe if you get a good run, and then into I guess China Beach, or I forget what number it is, turn 3. But I just couldn't quite get close enough to get that run. He was getting a good drive out of the keyhole, and I couldn't keep up there.
Dish, you got anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, I hate to bring it up, of course, but that big spin there off of the final corner, a great recovery drive from that point, though, but surely has you thinking maybe what could have been here at this race with how close that finish was.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because of those spins, Henry didn't have to, and Eric too, didn't have to push as much there. So, I mean, they would have had more pace, I think, as well. But yeah, it just silly mistakes. It just got caught out with the bumps in that last corner. So, oh well.
Well, you got anybody you want to give a shout out to tonight?
Yeah, as usual, big thank you to Race First. Matt Houston does a great job running this team and keeping us organized, as well as elmcgear.com, and Happy Trails Chili Mix.
We'll see you next week at Phoenix.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you, Alexander Vandersand, our runner-up tonight. We're joined now by our winner, Henry Bennett, your second win of the season so far. Great run tonight.
Thank you.
What was the key? Because there were a couple of other drivers. Troiano was really dominating a lot of the race, but as Rich pointed out, slow and steady often winds up being the key to winning this thing.
Completely right. My aim the entire race was really to run conservatively and look after the tires, because I thought whoever had the tires at the end of the stints would be the one to kind of complete the race in the least time, let's say, and that kind of turned out to be true. I mean, even when Eric and Caleb and Alex got ahead of me, they weren't pulling away, so I wasn't worried too much about them being ahead. I wasn't going to fight them too much when they went to pass me, because you just lose time overall to the leader or the guys behind. So just run it steady, don't lose too much track time, look after the tires. And yeah, I mean, I wasn't really going to push too much more if I needed to for pace. I mean, because you can only push really as hard as you can as a driver, and as far as the tires will let you with your driving technique. So if someone else was faster and could look after the tires better, then they would have won. But it just turned out that I looked after the tires and Other guys had incidents. I mean, if Alex hadn't have spun, if Eric hadn't have had his 2 spins, if Caleb hadn't have had his incident with the lap car, then they probably would have finished ahead of me. But it's just where it fell today, so pretty happy with that.
Well, it looks like you also took care of your fuel too, because we noticed early on that you were able to get a couple of more laps in each stint than the other drivers. And was that deliberate on your part? Were you running a different fuel map to try to save fuel, or was that just good driving and knowing when to ease off the off the gas pedal a little bit and try to save some fuel?
Completely deliberate. I did for a little bit in stint 1 use fuel map 2 until Caleb started catching up with me. Then I had to swap back to full fuel. But yeah, the aim was to go a little bit further on each of the red stints. The red tire being the faster tire, I wanted to be on the blacks the least possible amount of time. And the hope was that I'd make up a bunch of time when I changed to blacks, maybe 3-4 laps later than everyone else, because they'd be losing half a second a lap or more on blacks. And then when I changed them, a few laps later, I'd have a lot less time on them. So that was the goal. Didn't quite manage to make it out ahead of Eric when I changed to blacks, but I was a lot closer to him than I was when I went into the pits. But the unfortunate thing was, when just at the time I needed to put the hot laps in, at the end of the last stint on the Reds, I was behind P6 and 7, who were fighting for positions. They had no interest in letting me lap them. I mean, it's fair enough. They weren't going too slowly, but there was one lap I lost around a second, and that would have made the difference between getting out in the lead or not. But it turned out okay. I mean, made up the time. It went to plan. But yeah, happy with that, how it went.
Well, the big picture here is that you came into the race tonight with a 3-point lead over Adriano Pinheiro in the season standings, and then to watch him go out in those first couple of laps and essentially finish dead last in 23rd, that's got to be a bit relaxing for you for the rest of the race, knowing that you don't have to put as much pressure on to maintain that season lead.
Definitely don't need to. I can relax a little bit, but it's never good to relax completely, because I think there are 2. Yeah, we still got the 2 double points races, and we're about halfway through the race season. So I think there's more than half the points still up for grabs. But it does give me an advantage. But yeah, really sorry to see Adriano drop out like that. It's a mistake we all could have made, because these tires have so much understeer when they're cold. It's really easy to do that, and it's really unfortunate that he made a mistake. Because he was really fast, and he would have really been part of that battle all race if he hadn't done that.
Rish, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of actually wanted to touch on those tires a little. We did see, I think you possibly more so than the likes of the guys you were battling, especially, Triano and Van de Sant, struggling a little bit with those cold tires. Are there things that you can do as a driver? We were talking about a little bit up here in the booth, but are there things you can do as a driver to kind of really get those tires up to temp? And what are the benefits and downsides to really trying to get those tires up to temp quickly, and how that kind of pays off over the course of your run? Because it certainly looked like every time you came out of the pit lane, you struggled for about 3-4 laps before you really got those things comfortable underneath you, even with the Reds.
I'll have to go back and look at the lap times. But coming out 2 or 3 laps later than the other guys, they'd have them up to temperature already, and I was on cold tires. So that was my thinking at the time. But I might be wrong. I might have just been much slower than them on the cold tires. But you've got the in-car tools you can use. You can soften the front bar and move the brake bars backwards to get it to rotate more on the cold tires. But as far as warming them up quicker, you just drive harder, but you just do not want to lock up because you just go straight on at the corners. So yeah, I was probably being a bit conservative, but that was kind of how I was running all race. So why change it?
Any thoughts looking ahead to Phoenix next week?
Yeah, looking forward to it. Haven't tried the setup yet, but I love the track. I've had some good races there in the past. Good, also some bad races, but I think track position is going to be everything there. So going to try and qualify well and and hopefully finish well.
Well, we'll see you next Friday night at virtual Phoenix Raceway. Henry Bennett, our winner tonight here at Mid-Ohio. Congratulations, and have a good week, Henry. We'll talk to you next week, hopefully.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
That does it for us tonight here in the Tilson 200 at Mid-Ohio. Don't forget to join us once again next Friday night. We will be at virtual Phoenix Raceway. Mark Gillespie and Rich Kozla along with you for the all the action here on the Elite Racing League and the Elite Racing Channel, the Mega Player 86 IndyCar Series. Rich, any final thoughts tonight?
I mean, great racing there at the end. It's nice to be back on one of these natural terrain road courses for sure. And unfortunately, kind of the only one that we really have. We do have Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I think that I wouldn't fully classify that as a track like Mid-Ohio, where you've got these really hilly sections. But
oh, no.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a different kind of game there. But, you know, I love these racetracks. I love these cars on these racetracks. And a fantastic battle for the lead in those final 10 laps certainly made up for any of those small lulls in the action that you have when you have a 90-lap race around these tracks. But loved every second of it. Can't wait, though, for this run we've got coming up, though, to the Indy 500. It's going to be hectic. To the viewers at home, make sure you guys are subscribed to the Elite Racing Network and following the Elite Racing Leagues on Twitter, because you're going to want all of the updates about the races, not just in the IndyCar Series, but all of the Road to Indy Series and races that we have coming up in the next month.
And if you liked tonight's race, hit that like button on YouTube and tell your friends to join us next Friday night, 7:30 East Coast time from virtual Phoenix Raceway. Once again, that does it for us tonight at Mid-Ohio in the Elite Racing League, Tilson Mid-Ohio 200. For Rishav Kozla, I'm Mark Gillespie. Have yourselves a great week, and we'll see you next Friday night.